people holding it against you that you've had success, holding it against you that you have wealth, viewing billionaires as evil, and you're not doing enough to give back. You have like the Elizabeth Warren thing, that you haven't paid your fair share. I mean, that's got to be kind of aggravating.
I think it's just important to understand like what is this wealth? It's not like I've got like some massive cash balance. I simply had loans against my stock. So if Tesla and SpaceX went bankrupt, I would go bankrupt too immediately. I could easily have diversified and protected myself financially if SpaceX or Tesla went bankrupt, but I did not. Tesla's value and SpaceX's value is not up to me, it's up to investors. And they decided Tesla was worth $1 trillion in the public market. And I own 20% of the company, so
you're not apologizing right now? You're not going to look into the camera and say, I'm so sorry?
Look in the camera right now.
I'm just trying to explain, like, I don't think people necessarily understand.
They don't,
That this is not some function of sort of hoarding or something. It's simply that I own 20% of the company that became very valuable as decided by external investors. And so 20% of $1 trillion valuation is $200 billion.
Well, you were pretty mean to Senator Warren, though, on Twitter recently. You slammed her, man. Please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen.
She struck first, obviously.
Right.
She called me a freeloader.
Yeah.
And a grifter who doesn't pay taxes, basically. And I'm literally paying the most tax that any individual in history has ever paid this year, ever. And she doesn't pay taxes. Basically at all. And her salary is paid for by the taxpayer, like me.
Could you even use TurboTax? Would that even work?
If you could die by irony, she would be dead. The irony could kill.
What would happen if you walked into an H&R Block to file your taxes? Like, could they handle your case?
My taxes are actually not that complicated. I do not have any offshore accounts. I don't have any tax shelters. I have basically Tesla and SpaceX stock, and Tesla is publicly traded, so all information is public, and SpaceX is, a C corp that is audited. It has outside auditors, so with outside investors. So everything is extremely transparent. There are no elaborate sort of tax avoidance schemes or anything like that. So H&R Block could easily do my taxes. I don't need H&R Block. I could do it.
Yeah.
It'd probably take me a few hours to do my taxes. It's very basic. I mean, I'm not sure it's all that productive or interesting. Essentially all of my net worth is just in SpaceX and Tesla stock. These two companies that I helped create and have run for now almost 20 years have done a lot of useful things. SpaceX launches more payloads to orbit than the rest of the world combined, and has a global internet system called Starlink, and is the primary provider, the only U.S. provider of astronaut transport to the space station.
We publish 6 to 8 satire articles a day.
Some of them are funny. So that's, pretty good.
So SpaceX, it transports U.S. And as well as non-U.S. Astronauts to the space station. That was previously the U.S. was dependent on Russia. Who was doing a good job, but charging kind of crazy money per seat. So as far with SpaceX, the cost per astronaut dropped dramatically, and the money went to jobs in the U.S. So that's why people think SpaceX is valuable. Tesla.
The annoyance though of like people holding it against you that you've had success, holding it against you that you have wealth, viewing billionaires as evil, and you're not doing enough to give back. You have like the Elizabeth Warren thing, that you haven't paid your fair share. I mean, that's got to be kind of aggravating.
Yeah, I think it's just important to understand like what is this wealth? It's not like I've got like some massive cash balance. My cash balances are very, very low, and at least until I sold stock, which is really the first time I've actually sold stock in any meaningful way, was this quarter. I simply had loans against my stock, so if Tesla and SpaceX went bankrupt, I would go bankrupt too, immediately. So,
it's not realized, is what you're saying. Yeah, it's not.
No, it's just like people. It's just like I built these two companies, and it was extremely difficult to build them, like massively painful and difficult. Rewarding too, but also but massively painful, difficult. And I didn't sell the stock in the companies. My sort of impression was that you shouldn't take money off the table, or you shouldn't take stock off the table and de-risk things. That a captain should go down, with their ship. So it's like, okay, I don't want to take money off the table, and then if the companies fail, then I'll be sort of enriched while investors suffer, and that did not seem right. So anyway, that's the reason I didn't sell, is I could easily have diversified and protected myself financially if SpaceX and Tesla went bankrupt, but I did not. And SpaceX and Tesla came very close to bankruptcy many times. Even when bankruptcy was literally weeks away, I did not sell stock. And then the companies became valuable. Tesla's value and SpaceX's value is not up to me, it's up to investors. And they decided Tesla was worth $1 trillion in the public market. And I own 20% of the company. So
you're not apologizing right now? You're not going to look into the camera and say, I'm so sorry?
Look in the camera right now.
I'm just trying to explain, I don't think people necessarily understand.
They don't,
That this is not, some function of sort of hoarding or something. It's simply that, I own 20% of the company that became very valuable as decided by external investors. And so 20% of $1 trillion valuation is $200 billion. And I've said at various times that I think the stock price is too high, but the investors just ignored that. I'm like, okay, I literally said it's too high. And they just kept making that price higher. So I'm like,
tell them our value is too high.
So anyway, so it's just but like I said, this is not my so-called wealth. It's not some deep mystery. It's simply what is my ownership percentage of SpaceX and Tesla, multiply that by the valuation. That's my net worth. That's super simple, and my taxes are super simple. And I have no, like I said, no offshore accounts, no sort of clever tax evasion or anything like that. And I don't draw a salary or any cash salary or bonus from the companies at all. So again, I thought that was morally good to not do that. And so there were there was one year, I think 2018, where I didn't pay any tax, but that's because I didn't have any income, but I did have a little bit of income, but I'd actually overpaid taxes, I think, in 2017. So I paid too much tax, and so I got I basically netted that out in 2018 because I paid too much tax in 2017, accidentally. Unless you sell stock, there are no realized gains. So then I was like, well, should I sell? What am I supposed to do? Send shares to the government somehow? I don't know if you can even do that.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, unless I sell shares, there's no actual mechanism to pay tax. So then I was like, well, should I sell 10%? In order to pay tax? And I sort of asked Twitter, and they're like, on balance, they said yes. And so I sold enough stock to get to around 10% plus the option exercise stuff. And I try to be extremely literal, so that you don't generally need to read between the lines. You can just read the lines. So that's it.